Hello, sorry for the long wait. As promised, today we go to Stormhill Castle. Or will we? Near Red Riding Hood's shack, there's a little guard patrol, which can serve as a practice on how to use my new cool scythe. It definitely has more range than my axe, but I am very much not used to it yet. You'd wish I would stay on the road, but you're bound to be disappointed as I obviously am compelled to perimeter the area instead. I don't find much, but there is an owl, and in front of it a message that implies that the owl brings bad luck. How dare you? On the edge of the land there is what remains of a bridge and an old lady sitting in a very concerning position. Look at that foot. She's very interested in my fingers and reads me my fortune, I guess. Apparently, I'm supposed to traverse Raya Lucaria and use the Grand Lift, which is the thing I have found like half of the medallion for last time. Apparently, the bridge once led to Raya Lucaria, but it's collapsed now, and I'm supposed to go through Stormveil Castle. Or am I? Anyway, I go take a look at the end of the collapsed bridge, and there is a way down to perimeter. I can hear a scarab, and I get the storm wall ash of war from it. That's not the only secret of this patch of land though. I can go up and continue through an opening. This path continues forwards way longer than expected, and it's full of squirrels. Sorry to disturb you guys in your home. Anyway, I seem to be on the side of the castle, and I'm hoping to find something nice, maybe. Instead, I find some wolves, and the path just continues on and on until I get notified that I'm in Liurna of the Lakes now. That's alarming. The view is nice though. I find a grace, and there's a blind lady next to it. She's called Hietta, and she needs shabriri grapes to know where to go to become a finger maiden. I am still maidenless, so I'd love to help, so she'll be indebted to me and become my maiden. I mean, I'd love to help because I'm nice, but I have no grapes at the moment, and most importantly, my one true lover is here too. Bok! Finally! He's back! Bok is back! Anyway, he's happy to see me and wants to be my personal seamster, because apparently I'm doing a shitty job at altering my own clothes. Ah, I love Bok. Near the grace, there's also an entrance into the castle, where I conveniently find a grape for my maiden friend. The grape is actually a very ugly eyeball of the infirm, which makes me very concerned about this ghost near the item that really wants a maiden to eat his grapes. It's also concerning that Hietta is eating this stuff, but truly, who am I to judge? She gives me a gesture in exchange for the grape. Thank you, milady. I go back to the castle entrance and climb up a ladder, which eventually leads me to some sort of throne room where I can't attack, but there's nobody to attack anyway. I would have expected to find someone in here, but it seems I've come here from the wrong side, which tracks, since I am apparently in Liurna of the Lakes. So I go back and continue on the road to check it out a bit. There's a church here. By the way, my flasks are so overpowered compared to my status bars. I keep upgrading them, but it's making no difference. In the church, there's this very bald dude who is sad because he can't get back to Raya Lucaria, which he tells us is the magic school he was studying at. To get in, you apparently need a glintstone key, and he asked me to give it to him if I ever find it and not need it anymore. We also chat about Selen being a so-called graven witch, and that you have to go through Hogwarts to get to the capital. But honestly, all this talk of Raya Lucaria is a bit much. I'm not supposed to be here. I understand it's an open world, but come on. I've promised so many people I'd take care of that bitch-ass, Godric, so I can't just bypass him like this. Let's rewind. Oh look, a guard patrol. First time I encountered this. Uphill, there's a whole platoon of guards on my way to the entrance of the castle. Luckily, they're not very strong. Unluckily, they don't drop that many runes, which is annoying because I know there's a boss coming and I'd like to level up at least once before to not risk losing all my runes. Unfortunately, I need 1100 runes to level up now, so it's a bit of an ordeal. And I end up using a bird foot and killing the platoon a couple times to get to that amount, but I do finally manage to level up. Speaking of leveling up, I actually have to put some points into endurance at the moment, because I'm currently forced to use the Scar Seal just to avoid fat rolling. But anyways, the boss fight, we were saying. So, upon walking through a gate, I am greeted with a cutscene, which in the Souls-like says there's a boss fight. In the cutscene, Margit the Fell Omen greets me, or rather insults me, and tells me he's gonna extinguish my flame. Margit's always reminded me of the owl from Sekiro, so obviously I have a soft spot for him. I'd like to kill him by myself if I can. I don't feel particularly overpowered in this fight, but probably I am, to be honest. Still, it does take me 3 tries to kill him. I'll let you watch the complete fight so you can judge my skills and stuff. Please keep in mind I'm not used to this weapon. So Margit somehow manages to talk shit even after I kill him and tells me to be scared of the knight. To be fair, I'd probably be more impressed by his threats if I was able to tell what the hell he's saying, but he's speaking Old English so I can't. Defeating Margit gives me an item that lets me use 1 extra talisman, which is super nice actually. There's way too many graces, one near the other outside this castle. What is this game design? I do not know. Anyway, there's always sections like this in From games. I just don't understand them. I obviously want to start exploring the castle by dropping down side passages to find items I don't need. And after dropping down, I find a hole in a wall that brings me back up. So that's good. Here, I find a message that talks about gorgeous views. I've seen gorgeous views in this game, but man, what are you talking about? The clouds? Near the grace in front of the entrance gate, which is closed, there is a side entrance to a room with a guy in it, telling me to take the opening here instead of going through the main gate, as the soldiers don't know about it, apparently. Are all the soldiers here blind and dumb, I wonder? How could they possibly not know of this enormous hole in the wall? You know, besides that, it's also actually full of guards, so I really don't understand this, but still, I go through the opening as it aligns with the stealth instincts I have, so I think Gabby told me that I can use a rainbow stone to see if I can survive a fall, and that's such a handy trick. I've used it a lot, so thank you so much for that. While perimetering, I stumble on an enemy that I remember very well. The big birds with swords on their feet. I waste a bit of time looking around before progressing on the wooden stairs outside the walls with some different looking soldiers, which I think might be called the Exile, based on the armor they drop. I get in the walls where there's commoners waiting for me, and I'm very silent about my intrusion. Here I find Wolverine's claws. I actually used this kind of weapon for a while when I played Dark Souls 2. They're not bad. The commoners in here like to throw firebombs in a small place filled with explosive barrels. So do I, to be fair. This castle really shows off how far I'm willing to go to get every single item I can see. After exploring the inside and outside thoroughly, I go inside the door and I'm greeted by a maniacal laugh and a very scary night. And as I always say, fear is the most dangerous thing in these games, so of course I die. The second most dangerous thing is anger and impatience, and that also almost costs me my life running back to the night. But this time I experiment with the darkness spell. It actually seems somewhat useful in situations like this, for like a free backstab or some time to heal. I'm really not sure. In this dark room, I find a talisman and a rusty key that opens the other door in this barracks that is needed to progress. Above, it's some more of the same, except there's a couple of items I don't know how to get to. And I'm sorry, dude, but I've mastered the art of backstabbing when walking into rooms in these games. So, from outside, I get to what looks like an elevator shaft, and I have to fight a scary knight with basically no health left. I'm quite conflicted because I've left behind some items, but my lack of flasks prompts me to stealthily progress in the hope for grace, though not without sidetracking for items, of course. Luckily, there's a grace in the second floor, and I am safe for now. This is the Rampart Tower grace, and I have a couple of options on where to go. I decide to first go upstairs and out on the roof, and I'm greeted by a small ambush, but it's not a big deal, and from here I can parkour out on the actual roofs and bastions to get to weird places. I can get into a tower from above and drop down on a roof with a sword bird, and I find a sleepy gesture. It's a bit difficult to describe my parkouring exploration, but I do end up on a space with some guards, and I climb a ladder, the big nest of birds guarding a talisman that enhances jump attacks. And after that, I start parkouring down bit by bit, fighting the various guards on my way and getting closer and closer to the courtyard where the entrance gate was. I take the opportunity to snipe some enemies from above too, and I almost die fighting two knights at the same time because honestly, they really can't stop attacking, can they? Oh my god. I barely survive, and I am out of flasks, so we're in emergency mode. Luckily, we're almost on the courtyard, and we can sneak near the gate to a grace and open it up with a lever. And guys, it's fashion time. Out here, there's a commoner simple garb that actually looks kinda fancy, so I change up my outfit to match it. Here it is. After, I drop down to my friend that almost surely is the guy that closed me into the dark room with the scary knight, but I have no proof, so instead I just buy his stuff, I guess. I can't really charge the entrance, so instead I decide to go back to the Rampart Tower and go back from there to get the items I left behind because they were still bothering me. One's easy, I just have to do some parkour and go from outside, and it's actually worth the effort because it's a weapon. The other item is a bit more difficult to get to and takes me a while to figure out. I have to drop down from near the elevator shaft and then go around. And for what? And for what? I guess that's what I get for being obsessive. Whatever. Let's go back to Rampart Tower and go straight out. There's a place full of explosive barrels and birds carrying explosive barrels, so not the safest of places. I manage not to die and see that I can actually do some parkour down again. So of course I do some parkour down again. I drop down and down again until the floor literally crumbles underneath me and I'm mysteriously undamaged and can kill a scarab for another Ash of War. On this small slice of terrain, there's a Crucible Knight doing the rounds, and he's so much stronger than anyone here, and of course he kills me. As I try to be good and patient to go back to my runes, I get one shot by an explosive barrel and get very mad, but that doesn't stop me from continuing to go back to the Crucible Knight. So I do that. I'm definitely supposed to sneak behind him and come back at a later time, to be honest. But that doesn't account for me being stubborn as hell. It's bad though, because it's way too tough and has crazy range. And, you know, I end up cheesing it. I'm sorry. Or am I? He drops another Crucible incantation, which I also don't have the stats for yet, but soon I hope I will. So, worth it. If you're curious, he was guarding a smithing stone. The road leads to the bottom of the elevator shaft that leads to the Rampart Tower, so that's convenient. So this time I go forwards through the explosive barrel road and preemptively explode a bird. That's karma. I find the sword the birds are using. I actually think this is a very fancy looking sword and I kinda like it. I walk down to the roof and drop directly down near an open window that leads to a church. Here I find Rogier, a sorcerer. I tell him I want to defeat Godric and he offers to teach me, sell me, some magical sword arts. I don't think they'd scale very well with my stats, so I don't buy any. Outside the church there's a couple of guards and the road leads inside for once. There's this whole section of the castle where I'm thinking is where they quote-unquote graft people, which I think means cutting them into pieces and sewing them together maybe. There's also this cool dead giant, possibly bled to death or something. Unfortunately, I can't make it fall down. Also, enjoy this blinded knight clearly seeing me. I don't understand the spells in this game. So, in this fancy room, I find an interesting item, the Mimic Veil. That is how you play prop hunt in the Souls games. In the main room of this section, I kill some commoners, and one of them drops me a little tiara, which I will accept as headwear. I really don't want to fight the scary monster in the main room, so I go out and take a side tour from the outside. It brings me to a door that was closed from this side and to an imp key. So eventually I still have to go down in the scary monster room, but that doesn't mean I have to fight him. Instead, I just sneak around and go check out the side rooms. I don't want to lose more runes today. Underneath the dead giant, I find the Chrysalid's Memento, which reminds me of Red Riding Hood. I think this might be where her friends ended up. In another side room, there's a fog wall and a statue of a lady spilling water. I wonder, is this Marika? I really don't know. In the fog room, I find a wet blade, which seems to give me more options when applying an Ash of War to weapons. I don't think it's useful to me, as I just use the Sacred Affinity, but it is a dead end. So I go back to the scary monster room, and in the last side room, I find yet another elevator to, again, the Rampart Tower. This is good though, because now I can more calmly go back to deal with the Graft monster. And I deal with him as I do most things. You know, a bunch of fireballs and some fancy sight attacks. And with that done, I'd like to go back to Red Riding Hood to talk about grafting. But she's not there, and she left me a flower and a golden seed. And now I'm kinda worrying that the Chrysalid's Memento was hers now. Shit. But I've had enough of the castle today, so I go to the round table to upgrade a bit. And I see that I can ask the smith about Roderica. Who the fuck is Roderica? The smith says she's a girl, and apparently I brought her here. I don't remember bringing girls, but to my surprise, Roderica is how Red Riding Hood is called. And I find her in the main room of the round table, and I'm so glad to know you're alive. The smith seems to think that she has a talent for spirit tuning, and she seems to not believe that she has any talent of anything at all. And on the other hand, the Smith is also an insecure mess and doesn't believe when I tell him she'd like to learn from him. And we love a complete insecure mess of a duo, so I really want them to get along. With a bit of convincing on both sides, I managed to get everything to work, and Rodrika can now upgrade my summons, which is great. And we have a new cute couple in town, so awesome. Anyway, thank you for tuning in for my latest episode of Matchmaker, and see you next time.